I'm just so glad people were interested to come. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
To
it's
our
really exciting.
to our students.
Yeah, we haven't really done something like this before, so hopefully everyone's going to enjoy this. So what Teresa's going to take over from me in a minute, but I'll just do a little introduction since we have quite a few people that are brand new to Tag Teach and to us and seem to have never come to anything before. So we're really thrilled that you guys are here with us today. I'm Joan Orr, one of the Tag Teach co-founders, and then we have Theresa McKeon, one of the other Tag Teach co-founders. So it's actually been unusual lately for both of us to be on something at the same time because things have just been kind of crazy for both of us this year. And then we have a special guest today, Sydney Bleacher and Julia Field, who are fairly new Tag Teachers, have just come off some of our training with Theresa. And so they've kindly agreed to come on and tell us about some of their experiences, what they learned in our course and how it's affected their training that they do going forward and how it's maybe even changed how they live their lives, which is something that all of us have experienced as we've got more and more into Tag Teach. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Theresa. And Theresa, just let me know about the videos, which one you want to play, and I will do that.
Okay. Again, thank you everybody for jumping on, and I want to thank Sid, or better Sydney. Yeah, wave again there so everybody can find you up there. And we have Julia Field down there from all the way from Australia, so she got up early for us today. Thank you. And we had two others planned today, and one couldn't make it, and one just called in sick. So we hope she feels better, and so that's why we in the intro, the word intro, we had more people who are going to be here. But it's life, and sometimes we can't make it to these lives, but we appreciate Sid and Julia making it here. So when we were talking about putting this together, or putting together a new webinar, I thought it might be interesting to stop hearing from us. Sorry, Joan. And possibly hear from those who have just taken the course within the last year or so. You see a lot of videos from people who have been doing it a long time, but what happens while you're taking the class? Sorry, that's my dog mad at me for yelling loud. What happens when you take the class? What happens directly after? And they're just going to talk to us, and hopefully you'll ask questions if you would like. Joan, you can bring them on. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If you want, we would love to have you on camera, and you can talk to us live. This particular webinar is for you. So we may not be talking about what you need and what you want to hear. So please feel free to put it in the chat, and Joan will grab it and stop us at a good point and let you on if you want, or you can just type it in the chat and we'll answer all your questions, probably ad nauseum. So and I would love to hear those who are with us. We have a lot of other people signed up, but people often watch our videos when it's convenient, because it depends. Like Julia, it's 7:30 in the morning, it's 6 p.m. here, and but I do want to see who's here. If you want to type into the chat who you are and where you're from. We are really lucky to have Martha Gabler here. Thank you. Probably everybody knows Martha has been tag teaching a long time, has a tag teach book, has a tag teach course, and it's just brilliant to talk to, especially in the field of people with special needs. So if you have any questions about that, you can also ask her. Sue P, I believe that is from our classes. Sue P was in our classes. Sue, so actually you can come on as well and tell us your experiences. She's also a recent graduate, so we would love to hear from you. And Mila from New Hampshire.
Mila was just in Joey's live, the first live that we've done.
So wonderful. So we have two other new students who we would love to hear from. So we can only put on so many speakers on the slide, but please feel free to give your input during the webinar.
Can I just touch on something before you go on? Just about courses. Teresa's been mentioning our course and our training. So for those of you that are new to us, what Teresa's referring to is our level 1 TAGteach certification course. So we have 3 versions of that. We have an online version that you could just do totally on your own at your own time. We do virtual instructor-led courses, and those are led by Theresa or Luca Canaver from Italy. Those go occasionally, and you have to come like once a week to a class. So it's online, but it's virtual, and so it's not as flexible as the online course. But then you get more interaction with your fellow students and your instructor. And then we also have live in-person seminars where we bring people together and we're all in the same room. So we've just started those up again. So those are the 3 ways you can get your level 1 certification. Then after level 1, there's level 2 and level 3. At level 2, we do have some courses, and those are virtual, and we're doing a live one actually in October, I think. I haven't got the date exact, but so that's what Theresa means when she's
Yes,
talking about
you.
our courses.
And Sid and Julia are both level 2s. Julia is making plans actually to do her level 3, and we're hoping to convince her to start up teaching in Australia once she gets through all of her training. So anyway, anything else, Joan, before I jump on you again?
No, that's great.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I would love if we would just start with some introductions. Sid, do you mind? You're just up in my upper left.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Sid Bleicher, and I am the Director of Training at Ultimate Puppy and run a coaching practice in Toronto where I specialize in early puppy education and coach folks with puppies and adolescent dogs. And taking the TAGteach level 1 and level 2 has completely changed how I coach, really help refine it. Excited to be here.
Right. And so what I find interesting is that a lot of the people who take the course are already successful teachers. She's said you've had a successful business for quite a while. So although we do have people who might be new to training and teaching people to teach people to train their animals or other professions, many of our people have been in the industry a long time and just know that teaching people is something we can always improve on. How long have you been in business?
Pushing 30 years. Yeah. And like all different kind of degrees. And as you know, over the last, I don't know, I guess pushing 8 years, just dog training and coaching people versus two different things. So yeah, I've been in business a long time and lots of education and continuing to refine, my knowledge about, dog behavior and training and so on and so forth. But really the ability to connect with people and convey information effectively is what it's all about, right? Being able to motivate, inspire, and educate the people with the dogs. Yeah, so it's really different.
Yeah, why did you? First of all, how did you hear of, and why did you choose TAGteach? Because it's a commitment.
Yeah,
we're one of the. It's not as big a financial commitment as some courses, but it's a time commitment, and you filled in great homework and did videos and did a lot of work to get through 1 and 2. So
yeah. So why is through KPA. So I did a KPA like professional dog training certification where
Karen Pryor Academy.
Yep, the Karen Pryor Academy, and was introduced to TAGteach. And it was kind of like, yeah, amongst all the other stuff, it was there. That was my first introduction. And I didn't, I kind of really didn't get it. But it was kind of interesting, but it wasn't like on the forefront for me. And then really, I'll tell you, hearing you speak, Theresa, at different, clicker expos and so on and so forth. And I was a fan. So I guess it was, and then time and just the convergence of those two things. And I was like, I want to up my game as an educator and as there's nothing like when somebody's succinct and compelling and effective. Like, it's so sexy, you know, it's sharing information, and like, I love to listen to people like that. So goals. So yeah, that's like the story of how I came to choose Tag to do it. And then yeah, I love being able to do it online, and the process. I liked actually even the lag time between 2 and then going on to level 3, and yeah, it just was a great fit for me, and I highly recommend it.
Okay, let me I have more questions for you, but I'm going to go down to Julia now.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
Julia, kind of the same. Maybe how did you find us? What do you do, and why did you make
Okay.
this time commitment?
Well, I'm very similar to Sid. So I did the Karen Pryor professional dog trainer course, and during that course I was exposed to TAGteach, and I found it an extremely effective way of receiving information, because for me, I think the more instructions there are and the more talking there is, the more confused I get and the less I can actually execute the task I'm being asked to do. So during the course, I found that our instructor, Alexis, was using TAGteach quite a lot, and her instructions were very succinct. Yeah. And I asked her questions about TAGteach, and she provided me with a really good foundation of an introduction to it. So after a little while, I started thinking more about it, and I think in 2019, I sort of circled back to looking at TAGteach again, and I can't remember why I did that, but I was doing a lot of training in my job, and I was finding that I felt I wasn't being effective enough for my learners to actually get the information they needed. And so I put myself back in that position I felt when I wasn't getting enough of the distilled information I needed, and I was getting too much extra information. And the field I work in is very technical. It's a medical field. I'm providing training all the time. So I then remembered the conversations I'd had with Alexis, and I looked up the TAGteach website, and then I took the level 1 class, which I did in my own time, and I really enjoyed it, and I devoured it very quickly because it made so much sense to me. And then because of the time frame, I was able to then enroll for the TAGteach level 2, and the time zone that Theresa delivered the class in just worked. It was early in the morning for me. I could get everything done before I went to work. And then I went to work and started practicing what I had been learning, and basically using all the doctors and nurses I work with as guinea pigs. And then I started collecting information from them. And since then, I have become obsessed with teaching that way, to the point where I have spoken to some doctors who work in retrieval medicine and started discussing with them how they can improve their training and delivery, which has led me on to wanting to become more involved in TAGteach, because it's helped me finally learn, I guess, and deliver information in a way that helps other people who are busy and have a lot of things on their mind and just need to get the task done, but they don't need all the additional information. And the key thing that I love about it is that I don't hear and don't do this and don't do that. You get the information of what it is you need to do. And because I've used positive reinforcement with dogs and cows and chickens and horses. Yeah, I then think, oh goodness, this is exactly how they feel. That they're constantly constant correction, and it becomes quite disappointing, I suppose. So there's no joy in the learning, and that's what I found with animals and with the people with conventional teaching. But then with TAGteach, I found joy with the people I was teaching, And instead of it being a dog wagging its tail or a horse with its ears pricked forward going, I want to train, these people actually got engaged and they did that behavior, but in a human way. And that's very reinforcing for me, because it means to me, I can see I'm having a positive benefit to their job. And the people I work with go to major traumas, they see very sick people, they are constantly very, I suppose they deal with empathy, burnout, and role fatigue very, very quickly in their jobs. And adding complex layers of learning doesn't help them, but TAGteach certainly has.
So Julia, could you explain to us, because I didn't know, what retrieval medicine is?
Retrieval medicine is where a group of medical professionals, so there's usually a nurse and a doctor, and they're usually an intensive care specialist, will get in a helicopter with a pilot and they will fly to a major accident. So it can be a car accident or a farm accident or somebody who's very, very ill in a hospital that cannot look after them, that doesn't have the skills and equipment to look after them. And they will go to that location. They will use the equipment and skills that they have. They will collect the person in the helicopter and then they fly them back to a hospital that has the has all the equipment and the expertise to care for that person. So a critically ill person gets transferred by critically ill trained medical staff.
So it's emergency medicine.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Emergency medicine, they never know what they're going to get from one day to the next or from 1 hour to the next. It could be an adult, it could be a baby, it could be an adolescent, it could be an elderly person. They have no idea until they get the call.
So I thought, before we get into, Sid has allowed us to see some of her videos working with TAGteach, but what I thought was, you don't have any videos yet that we're allowed to use, although you've been taking this to groups of doctors. We just had Dr. Levy do something similar that you have done, and I thought we could play that video, Joan, yes, of Dr. Levy taking it to, it was a total of over almost 350 residents in one day, and they would bring a group of residents in, teach using TAGteach. And this particular group, literally, they all use the clicker a lot. And I'm going to talk with Sid in a little while. Sometimes we don't use the clicker with our students anymore, but this particular group is actually marking their students with a clicker, their resident teachers. So he took a video. Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx, New York, made a video of the process. They were so impressed with it and have graciously allowed us to show it here. So I thought maybe we would kind of get an idea of what you have been teaching, Julia, except via Dr. Levy.
One, two, three, four. This table here.
Today we're working with the fourth-year medical students who are part of a preparation for residency class here at Einstein to teach them how to tie a one-handed surgeon's knot. We have broken up the act of tying the knot into 12 steps. And each of those steps has a point that you want to get to, so what we call a tag point. Whenever someone, the learner, reaches the tag point, they get a click to reinforce the behavior. And we repeat, and we have the students both teach and then act as a learner, so both as a coach and learner in the process with the clickers.
The method was created by Dr. Levy of orthopedic surgery, and it's a way to try to standardize how we teach students to tie these knots so that once they get to residency, they're ready to go. This knot that we're teaching today is a square knot using the left hand.
Right over left, push to 4, down, up, down, backside grab, through, dress the knot. Just take the pinch, wrap, cross to 4, flick to a backside grab, through, truss the knot. It's a square knot. As soon as you get that tag point, flip.
This was great to work with medical students who are about to embark on their career in residency and see their excitement and their range of experiences. But we were able to teach all of them to tie a one-handed knot, and it was a great learning experience for me and a great teaching experience.
Do that 3 more times.
It was awesome. I think the students were really engaged and enthusiastic, and they really all took very well to this method.
I think this has been one of the best parts of 4th year. It's been super helpful. I think that we don't necessarily get enough practice with these things, so the fact that they did such a step-by-step process and such individualized learning was really, really helpful, and that we got to practice it multiple times so that we could feel really comfortable with it. It's amazing. I think this is excellent.
Perfect.
So I thought that was pretty fun. Just FYI, Joan Taylor also joined us. So if anybody, you have any questions for her too, I kind of asked her late if she would join us.
Okay.
She actually did a few of the sessions taught when I wasn't available for the students. So she was in there teaching as well.
Yeah, Taylor, just let me know if you want to come on camera.
Yeah, Taylor. She was in my level 1, helping you.
Yeah, Taylor's awesome.
Yeah.
Taylor's
Yeah.
one of our faculty members, and
Can she come
Dr.
on?
Levy. Yeah, if she
Can
wants to. I don't want to put her on the
Yes.
spot.
I always put her on the spot.
I know.
Anyway,
I'm sure
so
she loves
Julia,
you.
is that similar, or is that the kind of thing that you're doing?
It is.
Ish?
It is very similar. I don't use the clicker with these doctors, mainly because I guess they haven't been introduced, that they don't have the depth of understanding of behavioural learning. And so I chose to ask them what they wanted to use as a reference point to show the learner what they, when they'd got the task correctly, or when they'd done the step. And so they use a verbal marker, which works very well.
And what do they use? Yes, a word?
They use yes.
Ah, good.
Yeah. And the one thing I found is that it started off with a lot of head scratching from the senior doctors, and over here we call them consultants. So it started off with a lot of head scratching about, why are we doing this? This is very different. And then I think they felt a little bit self-conscious with delivering training the way they were delivering it. So we adjusted it so that they felt we gradually brought in more and more of the steps. And then what I noticed was that they started becoming happier when they saw someone having success, because what the steps we were teaching were quite complex. It's a very high level emergency procedure. If someone can't breathe, you have to help them breathe, but you have to put a tube through their neck, so like an emergency tracheostomy. And there's not very much smiling or relaxation when you're learning those steps at all. It's and when you need to use them really well, but they don't use them very often. And so it's a very serious process. But what I found was using TAGteach to teach the consultants, and then using yes as the reinforcer. The person who was learning was constantly reinforced for the right steps. It reduced their stress. And then I watched the instructors or the senior doctors, I watched them relaxing as well, because there was very little, if any, correction happening as we got more and more through the training. So it was a very positive process, which is really nice.
Right. So kind of what I want to get back to is you, because we want to know how it affected the students. It's wonderful that now you're taking it and affecting your students.
Yes.
But you as a student, and we've been doing some work together and going through some things, it seems that the bulk of what you took from TAGteach is how to take something very complex, or maybe I'm going to say it, I'll say it and then you tell me more. Very complex. And then breaking it down into these isolated steps that become tag points.
Yes.
And so you said you didn't think like that before, and now you've been.
No.
Okay, so let me let you take over there.
Okay. So before, the way I would teach was I would break things down to a degree, but not really thinking about it in a systematic way. And I would find myself still using corrections and getting frustrated with myself for using the corrections because I didn't, I guess, pre-plan and look at things from the student's perspective. I was delivering information from my perspective as a teacher, and I didn't look at all the parts of the learning process. And what I've found with TAGteach, the way I teach now, is very much. Sorry, I hope you can't hear my dog barking in the background. So the way I teach now is very systematic. I plan my lessons beforehand, and I.
Don't worry.
I'll just close the door. 1 second.
Okay.
Mr.
It's not like we don't all have dogs.
No, I know. He's usually very quiet. Of course, he takes this morning to do this. So my planning became definitely more complex and systematic, I suppose.
And where did you in the class get that? Do you remember what part of the training convinced you to do it like that?
I think for me, it was halfway through level 2 when we started looking at really using all the parts of TAGteach itself. So I sort of look at it now and call it more of a preamble to what we're going to teach. So, and getting across what I want to get across there, because a lot of the doctors I work with call it preamble. And then I liked the way that everything was distilled down and it just got to one point. So that's when we started really putting all the parts together, a light bulb went off. And in one of the sessions that we did, I was actually traveling for work and I was going to go and train some nurses that day. And before my training session, I actually, I had about, I think 45 minutes before I was going to train 90 nurses in 3 classes. And so I rewrote my whole session based on what I'd learned that morning of the lesson, the instructions, the lesson. And then I just, instead of teaching them the whole process, I just taught them the 2 most important tag points. So, and the feedback that I received from that training was so positive, even though I hadn't taught them everything. I taught them to be successful in 2 parts of a very complex procedure, and it was really great. Like, so I felt that it was clumsy, but then I've gone on since then, and I have I use the TAGteach method of delivering instructions all the time now. So, yeah.
So that's so fun to hear that you learned something in the morning. Well, it was your morning, everybody else's night, and we're able to use it that day. And I think that's important. That hopefully.
Can I ask a question? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Can you say, Julia, the instructions are? I'm just curious. Like, do you use that phrase ahead of? You do.
Yeah, I do. And I explained to them. So the way I did that teaching was, because nurses are used to being taught in a very rote learning way so that you follow along, and their process is, and it's the same when I've spoken to Dr. Levy, see one, do one, teach one. That's the way a lot of medical training is given. So I went into the room and in my preamble or my explanation of what we were going to do, I said, today we're going to do something very different. And I was asking them, I guess, permission for them to let me teach them in a different way. And then I asked for feedback at the end. But I said to them, because they were all chatting, and I said, when you hear the phrase, the instructions are, that's when I really need you to listen, because that's the instruction I'm going to give you. And then you have a task. And so I got them broken up into, there were so many in the room, that I got them broken up into 3 groups. And then I had in each group, someone was actually doing the action and someone was tagging them. And then the other people were watching. And at the end of the little, the steps that they had to do, they had a quick discussion about what they saw and how the person giving the tag point instructions could change. And so I had to go between all these groups of people, but and we didn't use clickers because I hadn't even thought about taking clickers with me. So we used the word yes. And I did a little, I grabbed this poor lady, I grabbed her from the audience and I showed her what we were going to do. I used her as an example and she was great. And in the end, she was helping me go around to all the groups and give them pointers. Like if I could have bottled her, she would have been amazing. So, but yeah, so it's a very long way of answering your question, but yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm going to play one video and then I swear, Sid, we're getting to you.
No,
and welcome, Taylor.
Can I just say something? Hi, Taylor. Can I just say something about the video that we just watched with that the girl at the end, the doctor at the end, who said that she felt that she had got individualized training, which is very interesting because there were, I think, like 350 or 400 of them.
Yeah, they came in groups of like 60.
Yeah. And they felt that they got individualized training. And then that sort of goes with what Julia's saying too, that they, even though there's so many people, they feel like they're getting individual attention and they get individual success. And so I think it's really heartwarming for me, and I know Theresa too, to hear you guys say this, because it's the kind of thing that we've been sort of saying for years, and sometimes you don't feel like anybody's actually listening. So it's very great to hear this stuff coming from other people.
Yeah. Awesome. Can you please play, or I guess I can bring it up. Although she doesn't like me touching the dials.
No, that's fine.
I have been known to cancel the entire thing. With Petra. Was Petra in your class, Sydney?
No.
Or Julia? Petra
so.
Edwards from New Zealand. Taylor, you know Petra. Anyway, she works with students who are learning to train animals, lots of animals. And in her student video, we're going to show a couple student videos now that people need to make for certification. She really did a nice example of how to explain what you're going to do, kind of what Julia was just talking about, really quickly, and then move on. Nobody who's not a tag teacher wants to hear the whole tag teach history. They need to leave in an hour and they need to know the task. So how do we start teaching with what you've learned in the class without making somebody a level 2 tag teacher? And so this was her class video that she did in the class, and I just think it's wonderful. So again, this is Petra Edwards.
This is the right one, right?
Yes.
So what we're going to do is, in a second, we're going to play a bit of a game, and I'm going to give you a goal that I'd like you to keep in mind, and when you achieve that goal, I'll let you know by saying the word tag. Okay, so very similar to the click training we were just doing. If you don't hear the word tag, it means that we didn't quite get the goal, and you need to reassess what's happening. So when we're doing this counter conditioning training, it's really important that we are focused on our timing. So what's going to happen in a second is that you're going to pretend to touch an animal on the withers, on the shoulders there, and then you're going to feed them a treat. So the timing here is really critical. You're going to touch and then feed the treat. The tag point is, the thing I want you to focus on is touch, then feed. Okay, so the tag point is touch, then feed. I'm going to do it first. I'm going to tag myself first so that you can see what that looks like. I'll demonstrate. So tag, tag, tag. Now what I'd like you to do is I want you all to tag me. So I want, if I get it correct, I want you to tag me.
Tag. Tag.
Tag. Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you very much. So that's all.
So she speaks really fast. But in 30 seconds, she said, we're going to play a game. I'm going to give you something that's really important. It's called a tag point. When you get it, I'm going to say tag. And that was it. And to explain it more, she had them tag her. And then, you know, she did that little demonstration. And then she broke them off later on in the video. She just breaks them off into pairs and goes, okay, go do that. Tag each other. In literally 30 seconds. And she said, nobody had a problem. No, everybody did it because the tag point was, and she had broken it down. It was touch, feed, touch, feed. And so it was so broken down so well that it didn't need a lot of explanation. And so they could teach each other. So I thought that was a really nice example of you could speak a little slower. Just she's so quick. She's so smart. Her brain works so fast. But you don't have to tell your students the entire TAGteach course to get started in TAGteach. And I think Julia has found that. And then we're going to hear from Sid how she does things in her way, what she took from TAGteach. So were there any questions on that? Joan, did you have a...
No, I don't see any questions, no.
Okay. Yes, Taylor.
There's always one.
I was just gonna quickly jump in, and I love her video, and I think it is such a great guide for how to quickly do that. And I was thinking, and I do this in every class, and I apologize, but I always come back to when I have to do this explanation with somebody who cannot see and cannot hear. That is a great structure she just followed. That even if somebody cannot see, cannot hear, I can follow the structure she just set out, and they understand, and we can run with it. So I just wanted to comment on that.
So Taylor, we have a ton of new people here today. Can you please tell them what your day job is?
Sure. I teach people who, my certification is I teach people who are blind to travel. Currently, the population I'm working with is people who are deafblind. And I teach them to travel and independent living skills, cooking, cleaning, life organization. So I have to very quickly, and when you're signing, ASL is very to the point. They don't use a whole lot of fluffy language. So I have to very quickly and succinctly get that across. And I think you could follow Petra's video in sign and get to the same place, which for me is a mark of big success.
Love that. Thank you.
Can I say one thing? I want to tell Taylor, I was recently working with a client with a blind puppy, and I didn't have any experience with a completely blind puppy before this. And I used haptic. I thought of you, you're on my shoulder. So one of the things that we were doing when, and he had a lot of, stranger danger, and, he can sense things, but not see things. So I would pair us telling him what was about to occur with just prior to that with a touch. And that came from you. That was awesome. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's another thing we've tried to do in these new courses that are virtual is bring in guest speakers. Like we brought in Dr. Marty, bring in Taylor. So if you have a specific area that we don't cover, we may try to find somebody who does what you are hoping to do and bring them in and talk about guest speakers. They might be able to help you a little bit. So, all right, Sid, you've been so patient. Thank you. So one of the things that I want to do before you get back and tell us how you've modified Tag Teach just a little bit for in your classroom, I would love to show your class video. Again, in the level 1 and the level 2, you make videos because we're not, unless you're in a live classroom where we actually all get together. People are doing videos for us. And I just have always loved your video of this. Teaching, I think the one we have is resource guarding, right, Joan? And so this was, do you want to say anything before we go on this? So this was one of your first videos, right?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to say about it.
Okay.
We have this one and the eardrop one too, I think.
Okay.
The SIDS too.
Hi. Hi. Today we're going to work on some simple games to help prevent resource guarding behavior in your puppy. The objective of this work is that you're able to easily approach your pup when he's chewing on something or take something out of his mouth if you need to. The instructions are: say hello as you approach your puppy, drop a treat by his nose, turn, and walk away. The tag point is walk away. I'll demonstrate. Hello.
So she's tagging, Sydney, you're tagging yourself, right?
The tag point is walk away. Hello.
Now the student is tagging the teacher, tagging Sydney.
My turn to tag.
And now the teacher will tag the student.
Hi, puppy. Hi there, Pop Pop. Hi, puppy.
Excellent.
Ooh, so good. So those of you, if you're completely new, what I'm hoping you're seeing and being awed, inspired by is the lack of words. There was knowledge being given. There was a what, there was a why, there was a one thing to do, there was demonstration, there was assessment. Did the student understand it? By tagging the teacher, we knew she understood the tag point because she tagged it properly. All done with, the whole thing had less than 100 words. But yet I thought it was friendly and inviting and felt like a safe environment. So I love that video. I kept saying I want to be Sid's student because it just seemed like a really safe environment. So anyway, Sid, you can tell us more.
So specifically, like just about tag, how I use it, or about that? But what am I talking about?
Well, we talked about how we do these videos, right? And there's certain things you have to have in them. All those 3 different things had to be in your learning videos. And then we go out into the real world, and sometimes we make some modifications and we find things that work better with, Taylor's group of people. Maybe she can't speak because they can't hear, or Julia's working with, and this in the beginning, she can't use the clicker, and maybe she brings it in later, or she finds that using the verbal marker is good. So I think you said you had some modifications that you found that Tag Teach was almost more for you than your student.
Yeah, more for me. Well, not exactly, because there's, I think how I would describe so many of my students, they don't want to be trainers. They don't have which is like a dog trainer. You're like, what? You don't want to know all the things? Come on. They're busy. They have limited capacity, and they want results. No pressure. And
in an hour.
Yeah, they want it yesterday. So I've found what we've talked about this, focusing on only one thing. I don't tend to do, I won't have them necessarily tag me. Once in a while, I might have them tag me, but just like kind of really zeroing in on one thing And that TAG has really helped me with that. Like, instead of talking about all the points and all the things, go to one thing, get that, build on it. Short phrase coaching, also another thing. I think that was in level 2. I can't really remember right now, but so helpful. I'll use an example. Like, if I'm coaching people to do, get their puppies comfortable with routine handling for grooming or vet visits. Touch an ear. So reach, touch, drop. So just the idea of reaching for an ear, touching the ear, and doing a, fake out ear drop. Reach, touch, touching their ear, drop. And then I love watching students just be able to take that and say it and get it, So what else? So the short phrase coaching, using sort of being able to, like Julia said, like distilling things down and getting rid of all the extra stuff and getting to the point and really focusing on one thing. That's been a huge, and also, like, when I start talking too much, being able to stop myself and then get back to the point. Yeah. So just game changing, like in the moment. Like, I don't even think words can do it justice, because when you're in the moment and you're like, ooh, seeking, okay, just righted myself, or, oh yeah, nailed that because I didn't say too much, or I got right to the point and made it clear. Yep. Really.
Yeah, I like that part. Oh, I'm sinking. I'm watching everybody's start to glaze over.
Yeah.
Now what, right?
Yeah.
We all know that. We all know that happens. But then what? Now, how do I get myself out of it?
Yeah. Now I've got skills to, like, save my own life.
I love situation. Tag Teach gives you skills to save your own life.
Yeah, when you're saying too much. Yeah.
So this other video that you have, actually, you are using the marker and you are using the language because it was another student video. And so you just described how you would do it with short phrase coaching. You would give them the 3 points, ask them to repeat those 3 points so that it was broken down and they can remember it. But let's look at it in an elongated Tag Teach version. So Joan, I think this is the ear video, ear cleaning video, maybe it's called. Life preserver for teachers. I love that.
Yeah.
Julia.
Hi. Hello. Today we're going to work on some routine handling exercises. It's not uncommon for dogs to be uncomfortable with things like nail trims, vet visits, or us administering meds to their ears, eyes, or mouth. With a little consistent effort and attention, you can make a big difference in your dog's comfort level regarding necessary handling by a human. The objective for this work today is that you're able to do a dress rehearsal, administering an ear drop. In the first step, we're going to work to create a positive association with this grooming station that we've set up. This is a target to feed your treat to. The instructions are, say good as you deliver a treat to blue target. The tag point is treat to target.
Good. Good. Very good.
Excellent. Next step, practice handling the dog's ear and pair this with treats. The instructions are, touch the ear, say good, feed treat to target. Touch, good, treat.
Good. Good. Good.
Beautiful. Next step, we're going to introduce the eardrop bottle. The instructions are bottle to belly button, bottle to the red target. The tag point is right to red. The tag point is right to red. Belly button, right to red. Excellent. Now we're going to pair the bottle with treats. Add in the step treat to target. Belly button, red, treat to target.
Good.
Belly button, red, treat.
Good. Good.
Okay,
Excellent.
I'm going to stop it there. What I really liked about this, Sid, is you go in and out of using the marker. You go from short phrase coaching to this step needs a click or a tag, to this doesn't need a tag. It's just she understood it, and I'm going to say right to red, treat to target, and you flow back and forth between all the different skills, all tools in that piece.
Yep. That was a lot watching that. I was just like, wow, that was a lot.
It was, but again, we had asked them to put in all the different tools. You may not use that in one class, but from the class, she's like, these are the tools I learned. I used short phrase coaching. I used back chaining. I used, she was just putting in all the tools in that video.
But what was cool to watch, that's my mom. And I could see her think like I wasn't, again, there was the information was distilled, not a lot of talking, which is distracting for people. So I could, watching it now, like see her thinking and listening, and she was able to do it with, limited talk, and not a lot of clutter, with the talk. So yeah.
It's wonderful giving your learner time to process. Go ahead, Taylor.
I kind of chuckle because you said that was a lot. And one of the things I actually loved is in your objectives, what you said was you will be comfortable doing a dry run. You didn't say you're going to be able to do an ear treatment. You said the objective is that you're comfortable doing a dry run. And I think to take that pressure off of your learner, like, oh, I'm not expected to be able to do this completely on my dog at the end of this.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And I loved that language. So I just wanted to point that out.
I think it's interesting that you said that was a lot, because I was thinking when you did the target to the eardrop to target, like that was just the teensiest, weensiest little step that I think a lot of people would just gloss over and assume. Whereas you gave your learner the opportunity to learn that important skill of just moving the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people would just assume that that's just easy. Why do we need to teach that? And I think you did an awesome job of, like Theresa said, going back and forth. And that's the hallmark of an experienced tag teacher. Like at first, when we do level 1, it's all the instructions are, the tag point is, everything is marked, tagged. Whereas once you get to actually using it, you realize that, well, I don't need to use this tool here and I need to use that tool over there. And I think that's really cool to see the evolution from what would be like a level 1 to what is a level 2.
Yeah. Awesome.
Can I just add one thing that Sid has just said that I find exceptionally useful when I'm using TAGteach in training? And that's, Sid just said, it gives me time and I'm able to watch the learner's reaction to the instructions I'm giving them. And so for me, I don't get to, there's a few times because I get carried away and so excited about what I'm teaching. But sometimes when that doesn't happen, which is happening more and more now because I'm learning to distill things down, I've got time to watch the learner's reaction to the instructions I've given them, to see how they're performing the task. And then I can break it down even more if I need to, because I've got time too. Whereas we put a lot of focus on the learner and them having enough time to process the instructions and to be able to perform the task. But as a teacher, you don't get very much time to assess everything and go to the next step. But with TAGteacher, I find I've got a very clear pathway. If my learner isn't able to get the instructions and perform the task I've given them within a certain time frame, then I'm going to take back and say, okay, let's break that down even more so that they can be successful, and I can then add back in those steps. So it gives me so much more to help them, but also to help me be a better teacher. And that's exactly what Sid said. You could watch your mum do all those steps, and that for me is the key thing. It just almost everything goes calm, and I just have one thing to watch, and then I can reassess.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yes, going. Yes, 100%.
You know, there's one thing I wanted to ask you all about the class. And it's something I think we all worked very hard on in all the classes, level 1, level 2, and we got some good feedback. So I'm going to kind of toot our own horn, but I'm a nervous learner. I get very nervous when someone wants me to learn something in front of other people, even if I'm learning to learn, especially when we've been in our businesses. Like Julia, you've been in your business for forever. Sydney, you're considered an expert. Taylor, you're considered an expert. Joan's considered an expert. And so it's even more nerve-wracking when somebody goes to teach us, or if we're in a learning environment and we might not pick it up as fast. You know, it's just a very nerve-wracking thing. So one of the things I want people to understand if they're looking at this and deciding whether they want to come to a class is, how did you feel about the working environment, at least in the virtual class, our virtual class that was online? Because there was a lot of work, and there was homework, and there was discussion, and how did you feel about sharing in that scenario?
Go, Julia, you can start.
Well, I put myself in Theresa's camp. I'm a very nervous learner, and I want to get it right the first time, and I don't want to make mistakes in front of people. And I actually found that I didn't need to have those thoughts in the virtual class, because I recognized that pretty much everybody felt the same way. And Theresa made it very easy to share information and feel very safe. And so after the first live class, I actually really started enjoying the process, and I got a lot out of it. And it gave me a lot of self-confidence, because I could share things and feel, okay, well, I made a mistake, or I could do it. But it was never, the conversations were always very, have you thought about doing it this way? Or there was no anxiety for me. So I found myself going from being anxious to looking forward to the classes every time. And that looking forward to it got to the point where I was moving things around in my diary so that I was not going to miss that class. It didn't matter what happened. So I found it a really positive experience.
Yeah, I would, yes, my sentiments. So really safe, nurturing, one of the space, environment, culture. I think one thing that was so cool was that it wasn't all dog trainers, you know, so people from all different walks of, you know, whether it's why they were there, you know, and so there's so much to be learned from one another in that capacity, and it definitely felt safe and inspiring. And I love the way everything was sort of just broken down. My dad always said, you know the rules before you break the rules, and there was just a really nice flow to the way that everything was presented, and to the, you know, our homework. And yeah, awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, one thing I really enjoyed with all of you is we have we call office hours. So there's class, and then on a separate day, and it's not mandatory. I think everybody came almost every time, but there's this time that we got together and go, oh, look what I did, or oh, I found I have a question, or we just geeked out on certain things, or so that's something I really enjoyed, because I obviously I learn as much from you all as I hope you learn. Joe,
And I just want to do a little "I told you so" here, because it's taken Theresa a long time to feel that it would be virtual training would work at all, and certainly as well as the live training, because our live seminars, I mean, you just can't beat that. Well, you can actually, because I think these virtual things, we didn't really know that how well they would work out, but the people that came have been so wonderful. And also we spent a lot of time trying to get it right the first time. and we got lots of great feedback from the first couple of groups that we had. So if you were not in the first couple of groups, you got a better version. But the fact that people had time in between, so you have your class and then a week later you'd have the next class, whereas in our live sessions it's like boom, 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 like there's a lot, like we feel like we're doing information overload, which is what we're trying to teach people to avoid, and then we do it ourselves. We feel like we're doing it ourselves in our live sessions, but I think the pace of the virtual has worked out really well, with people having time to process things and practice in between.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I just didn't think it worked. And I think I forgot who brought this up, but the variety of people that we can get. We can get people from Australia and New Zealand and England and US and Canada all in the same class. And that, to those of us who love to teach, is wonderful, because is it the same in Canada? Oh my goodness, is it? Oh, it is the same. And
what's the weather like? When it comes to snakes in Australia, there was a lot of talk about snakes with the Australian students.
I don't remember.
So it's not the same here as that, right, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. Not everything in Canada tries to kill you. In fact, most things don't.
Very true. I want to put in one last video, because we were supposed to have Rachel here. Unfortunately, she was feeling under the weather a little bit, but I really liked her student video. So that would be the leash handling. Yeah. And she was just such a lovely student.
Okay, so for today's lesson, we're going to learn how to safely and effectively hold our dog's leash. We will start with the handle. The instructions are: with an open palm, place loop of handle over pointer finger and close to make fist. The tag point is make fist. I'll demonstrate. Tag. 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 Now it's your turn to tag. 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 My turn to tag. The instructions are: with an open hand, place leash loop over pointer finger and close to make fist. The tag point is make fist. And we'll do this 3 times when you're ready. Tag. 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 Very good. Okay. So the next step is our second hand. We want to make sure we have 2 hands on our leash at all times for safety. So the new instructions are: with our free hand, hold leash under fist and slide to thigh. The tag point is slide to thigh. Again, I'll demonstrate. Tag. 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 Your turn to tag. 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 My turn to tag. Again, the instructions are: with your free hand, hold leash under fist and slide to thigh. The tag point is slide to thigh. And again, we can do this 3 times when you're ready. Tag.
There you go. That's good.
The very last piece of this.
Again, so how quickly she was moving through with a few words, but there was so much interaction between teacher and learner, right? For not a lot of blah, blah, blah. It was, you watch me, I'll watch you, you watch me, I'll do a bit. And there was this back and forth and this beautiful dance between her and her learner that I just thought was really nice. Joan, have you seen that one? Do you have any comment on that?
No, I hadn't seen that one. No, it's great. It's wonderful. They're just, I've seen so many, all almost exactly the same, like different, with different, what do you call, topics and different people. Because and my daughter Anne evaluates all the online course ones, and sometimes she says, oh, you got to watch this one, you got to watch that one. So, and the really good ones are all like this. The ones that she points out to me, they just like flow so smoothly. And everybody gets better at it as they go. I mean, and everything looks easy. When it's done so well and simply, it looks really easy, even though it's a complex skill. So I think like that's one of the ways to judge whether it's great teaching is how easy it looks.
Right. And again, this was a student video, so it doesn't take very long. It does take some practice, but that she was still a student sending in a student video. So it's not like it takes years. It just, we do a lot of fun practice as each week goes by. You have little practices at a time. So it's not, have to do it, I think. They'll let me know after the video if I'm lying.
The repetition's so great, like the repetition. It's when watching that, and plus that mural was awesome. The dogs looking up, it was very pretty to look at. But just, when I'm coaching people, it's like that repetition. So the same with learning the tag, the repetition that we do while we're learning is just so helpful.
Good. Do we have any questions from people who are watching this live? I know a lot of the people are going to watch the recording, but anybody have a question they would like to come on and ask Julia or Sydney anything? I think Taylor had to jump, but or she got knocked
she said
off,
she got bumped.
Okay.
You can try coming back on, Taylor. It should hopefully let you back on.
She actually had class and she was.
Oh, I see. She's here. I just didn't see her coming back on. Okay. Sorry, Taylor. I will turn you there. Should be good to go.
Okay. No, she actually had a college class. Are you ducking out of your class to be here? Thank you.
No, it's more like homework that's not getting done.
Oh. So again, I know we don't have a ton of people. Is there anybody who would just like to ask any questions? You can either type it or
while we're waiting, can I comment on something that I think Julia mentioned earlier about being able to watch one thing at a time and having that space and that time for yourself as the instructor. But what I also really notice, and I find myself trying to convey to my interns all the time, is you learn what the individual in front of you looks like when they're thinking. You learn what that person in front of you looks like as they're approaching their aha moment, or you know what they look like when you've got to go back and redo your instructions or find a new tag point. So I find myself constantly giving the wait sign to my interns who want to jump in before they really should be jumping in. And I think through my tag teaching, I've learned what that looks like. I've learned that just waited it out moment.
Yeah.
This sounds like a webinar. This sounds like something we should geek out on. I love it. Go ahead, Taylor. In between classes, you just write that webinar for us.
Pump that other one out. Yep.
The waiting can be awkward sometimes when you're teaching, that pause, which is so important. So yeah, it's a good reminder to wait.
Yeah. Well, I think the pause seems really long when you're a teacher, but for the student, it seems a lot shorter.
Finally, she stopped talking. Yeah. Just kidding. Way less talking these days.
Okay. Anybody? We're up at almost 7:15 now. So does anybody have any questions, or should we thank our speakers?
Yeah, Martha says, great video and great guest speakers. A big thank you to the new TAG teachers and welcome to the TAG Teach community. Martha was probably our very first TAG Teach faculty person.
I just wanted to add one thing. If anybody is watching the recording and they're on the fence about whether they should take the classes, my wholehearted recommendation would be just absolutely do it. It will change your life. It'll change the lives of people around you. It'll change your work. It'll give you so much more enjoyment. And if you're anything like, I think the people like everybody here, you just want to keep on learning. So the classes aren't difficult to take. The level 1 is very enjoyable and it's a great springboard into level 2. And then if you're anything like me and a couple of people that did the class that I was with, it just leaves you hungry for more. So I just felt like when I finished level 2, I seriously found my tribe. And so I want to thank Theresa and Joan for developing TAG Teach and continuing to deliver the excellent content that they're delivering. It's just wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Well, this wasn't really supposed to be like a marketing thing, but it's awesome.
I just want to thank Julia and Sydney again. Julia had to wake up very early. Sydney probably, she teaches like a maniac, so I don't know how many classes she had to cancel to be here. Taylor, thank you so much for jumping in. And Joan, thank you for hosting us. And thanks to all of you who are watching us today. And we hope to hear from you, comments, questions, and possibly in a class that will be coming up in the fall. And we'll put those dates out. So thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.